presentation because this is the evening. Pardon me. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And this is All Things Self Mastery. And I am your host, Venus, a goddess. I teach individuals how to mentally, spiritually, emotionally, definitely energetically, and spiritually, how to tap into your power by learning the art and practices of self mastery so you can master your reality. For those of you who actually want to see the presentation, I come live on Friday evenings. If I'm available, most times I'm available on Fridays, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I teach you on various of topics dealing with and centered around self-mastery. So this evening, if you're interested in viewing the presentation, you can hop on to my YouTube channel. It's All Things Self-Mastery. If you want a quick hop, skip, and a jump, the link is in my bio. It'll jumpstart you, beam you up right to my YouTube channel. If not, you're more than welcome to stay here. Hi. Hi, beautiful. Hi, Yavi. How are you, my love? I'm here. Good evening. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate that. Right. So why are we talking about, and pardon me again if you are unable to see the title. I forgot to say peace to my Facebook family. I'm not going to leave you out. Hey, Facebook family, if you are joining me, make sure you hit the comment and say, hey, love, hey. It don't cost you nothing to just tap in the comment, give me a like, give me a heart, give me a thumbs up. And for certain, make sure you are following me across all platforms. It does not cost you anything to hit that subscribe button. It does not take or cost you anything to make sure you're following me on these platforms, okay? And make sure you pay attention to the messages if you are in TikTok and Facebook land. So this evening, what are we talking about? We're talking about the why your relationships are unhealthy. A lot of the information and some tips are going to be familiar to you. However, a lot of information that is going around, a lot of the information that we have been consuming, I can tell you now that it is not working. It is not helping. It is actually causing us to be to not only continue to self-destruct, it is absolutely causing us to keep repeating the same unhealthy practices, right? They're not working. What are we doing? If you are finding yourself repeating the same conversations, having the same dialogue, hi, Tasha, how are you? How are you, goddess, right? If you're finding yourself continually entertaining certain conversations, if you're finding that your life receipts aren't adding up to what you have currently in your information and your database, baby, something ain't right, something ain't working. It isn't working. Why are so many individuals in unhealthy relationships? So, I am going to give you some tips on a healthier perspective, right? You take it how you take it. If you receive it, I guarantee you it will absolutely change the dynamics of your reality, especially if you apply it, right? So, all of you know that I like communication. Yes, I love the fact that you're running up the hearts. Let's let TikTok know that this is a positive live. We're not riff-raffing over here. We're not warring over here. We're not talking foolish conversations, right? At some point, space and time, you have to take some time to invest in self-development, right? The things that I teach, and I've been teaching self-mastery for 15 plus years, there are, and I feel obligated to just remind you, there are rooms there are rooms that you are not afforded to be in that's teaching you and telling you about the same indisputable facts, scientifically backed facts, right? Perspective, sacred knowledge, metaphysical wisdom, you name it. And they're doing this for thousands of dollars. And I come before you mainly Friday evenings and I give you the same information. Why? Because many of us, we want a better life. We want to forge healthier relationships, right? Nothing in nature stands alone. Everything in nature is connected. Everything in nature is connected. You were not purposed to be here alone. There's a difference in you choosing to be in isolation, which should be for your personal development, And then you choosing to be alone, to be isolated because you are so overwhelmed, you're so broken, you're so frustrated. Some of us are heavily depressed, right? Some of us experiencing anxiety, some of us addicted to so many toxic things. Why? I always teach the why, because until you understand the why, not the surface level why, the core reason as to why you keep doing the things that you do, nothing is going to change. And so, if you're happy, if you're comfortable with doing the same things over and over again, by all means, continue. I'm not talking to you, with all due respect. I'm not talking to you. So, the why relationships are unhealthy, right? Why do we stay in unhealthy relationships? First and foremost, when I speak of relationships, I'm just not talking about external relationships. Many of you that are not familiar with me, the more you become familiar with me, the more you're going to understand, not understand, the more you're going to understand that I speak from the internal factors, from an internal place, more than I speak from internal. Because what do I teach? If you remember, as above, so below. Everything that happens externally must first happen and transpire internally. So if your external factors, if your external environment, if your external attractions and manifestations, right, aren't what you want it to be, expect it to be, wish to be, desire it to be, you have to go inward to really understand. And that's the core of what I teach. I want you to understand the core reason, the internal reasons as to why you do the things you do. And the only thing that I require as I teach you and share, right, is for you to just show the love by tapping the screen, show the love. If you on my TikTok, by just, I think it's a like or a thumbs up. It doesn't cost you anything to support, right? Especially if you understood universal laws and principles like cause and effect, energetic transfer. There's always an energy transfer. What you give is what you receive. So every time you're in a position, in an environment where you can exchange healthy energy, healthy frequencies, right, always jump for it, participate, because I'm telling you, it's going to matter. It's going to matter. Everything you do has an energetic consequence. Everything you do has an energetic consequence. So why do we stay in unhealthy relationships? Come on, talk to me. This is not this is not a dictatorship, right? We learn as one. We learn together. Why do many of us stay in unhealthy relationships? Put it in the comments. Drop it in drop it in the chat. What are some reasons why many of us are staying in unhealthy relationships? What are some of these reasons, right? I know some of the conversations that we're having, many of conversations that we're having, right? We're having conversations about leadership in regard to relationships. Who's the leader? Who's supposed to be the leader? Who's supposed to lead? Who's supposed to follow? We're having conversations centered around submission. Who's supposed to submit? Who's supposed to surrender? Right? Who's supposed to submit to who? We're having conversations around gender warring. We're fighting each other. We're scrapping each other. We're arguing with one another. No resolve. No resolve. And we can clearly see that is very evident. I mean, just if you're paying attention, right? Even if you are unable at the moment to tap into what you're sensing, I'm sure you can visually notice what's going on, that all these gender warring that's going on, the fighting back and forth, the who's superior and inferior, the who's supposed to be the leader and not. We're talking about the matriarchal system, the patriarchal system. Not saying that any of these things are irrelevant. However, what is it serving you by having the conversations? I oftentimes speak of intentions. 90% of the things you do should be intentional. What are the conversations that many of us are having, especially in regard to relationship? How is it serving you? What are your results? Because the last time I checked, we're still arguing about traditional versus modern women or men. We're still talking about the roles that men or women should play. We're still talking about baby mothers, single mothers, baby daddies, single fathers. We're still talking about who's supposed to be accountable, who's not taking accountable, and who is. We're still arguing about body count. Come on. Come on, let's make it make sense. We're still arguing about body count. We're still throwing out nasty innuendos. We're still throwing out derogatory terms. We're calling each other all types of names under the sun and beneath the dirt, which is not becoming and it's not respectful. We're talking about three calling each other 304s and Pookies and Ray Rays and Dusties. And many of us are unknowingly using these terms, just throwing around these terms when indirectly, what you don't realize is that you're only talking about yourself. We are extensions of each other in many ways. Okay, Tasha, I see you. I see you. Right? We're reflections of each other in many ways. If the things that you are doing, if the things that you are saying, if the things that you are repeating, if the behaviors that you're doing, right? If your behaviors, if your language isn't conducive and isn't yielding the results that you want, that you desire, right? Then it's time to take a second look. It's time to reevaluate some things, right? So why are the dynamics of today's relationships unhealthy? Why are they unhealthy? Right? Many of us desire to meet our partners, our life partners for now. Many of us desire connection, pure connections, genuine connections, authentic connections. Many of us desire to create beautiful relationships or partnerships with someone. But the first and most important and vital relationship that you should be thinking about is the relationship that you have with yourself. Because the relationship that you have with yourself is going to dictate the forging of the relationships and the dynamics that you have with other people. Let me say that again. Peace, goddess. Love you. How are you, love? The relationship that you have with yourself predicts and dictates the relationships that you have with other people. It determines the gravity of the relationship. It determines the life expectancy of a relationship. The relationship that you have dictates so much. So if you're wondering why you have or are engaged in or have forged unhealthy relationships, right, and connections with people, the wise thing to do is to understand you must go within and figure out, right? Figure out the why your personal internal relationship with self is dysfunctional because you only attract according to what you vibrate on. You only attract according to your mental database, which we're gonna get into, not only to experience how it feels. Many of us desire beautiful partnerships, and that's okay. It's healthy. Not only partnerships in a romantic sense, just platonic, beautiful friendships that are lasting, right? Beautiful relationships that don't turn toxic a week or 2 weeks or 2 months or 2 years later, right? Many of us seek to forge those relationships, especially romantic when it comes to being loved in a purest fashion, being honored, being respected, being appreciated and desired, being happy, being supported, right? N- no matter what season you're in, and as you navigate in through and out the seasons of life, healthy relationships does not mean that everything is always going to be operating at its optimum potential, because there is a universal principle called duality and polarity. For every one thing, there is another thing. For every opposite, there is another side. For every positive, there is a negative. For every up, there's a down. For every left, there is a right. There is always going to be duality. You cannot continually, unknowingly, unwisely expect everything to be lopsided. You cannot expect to experience a pure joy if you also are closed and closed minded to also experience suffering to different degrees, depending on where you are in your journey. They go hand in hand. They go hand in hand. So when we're asking the question, why are so many of us in healthy, unhealthy relationships? Why aren't there more healthy relationships? Thank you so much for the taps. Let's continue to tap. Let the algorithm know that this is a positive live. Learn you something. I know it's Friday. I know it's Friday, and some of y'all want to party, and some of y'all want to get freaky and all these type. I know y'all want to have fun, but take a moment to educate yourself. Take a moment to educate yourself. Thank you, Goddess. Thank you so much. I always appreciate you, right? We want to be held again. We want to exchange certain beautiful energies with people. We want to, well, for most of us who understand, even if you don't understand, we want to actually experience what sacred sex is, right? Because right now, a lot of us are very animalistic in our sexual practices. I'm not saying that it don't feel good. I'm not saying that it doesn't bring pleasure because it does, right? But remember what I said about those universal principles, mainly cause and effect. For every effect, there's a cause, and it's going to impact you on many different levels spiritually, mentally, physically, right? Financially, energetically, emotionally. All of these things have been affecting you. What you know and what you don't know have been affecting you, is still affecting you, and it's going to continue affecting you. And the more you don't know, the more you are going to continue these unhealthy behavior patterns on a downward spiral. I guarantee you, if you're not going up, you're going down. How, Venus? How is that possible? Are you not paying attention? Are we not paying attention to the dynamics of our relationships today? Do we are we am I the only one that hear all of the toxic conversations, that are listening to all of the negativity? Am I the only one that is listening to the stupidity and the foolishness? Am I the only one who's paying attention? Am I the only one who is seeing the destruction of many relationships, starting with the relationship that you have with yourself? I know I'm not the only one, with a vast amount of relative and relevant. Mwah, thank you so much, beautiful. I appreciate you. I love those little kissy faces, right? With a vast amount of reasons. Relevant, right? All relevant and relative. I want us to focus on our inter relationship, our personal relationship, because until you change the relationship that you have with self, the relationships that you have with others, including your loved ones, your family, your co-workers, your spouses, everyone fits under that umbrella. Things are not going to change. They will inevitably worsen. They will. This is the indisputable fact, not opinion, not perspective, right? I want to focus on building or recreating the healthy dynamics, right? So I'm going to give you 4 tips if we get through, because this is a master class that I teach. I'm going to give you 4 tips, 4 reasons, 4 primary reasons as to why we're not forging healthy relationships, starting with the relationship that we have with self. What do you think that is, beautiful people? If you in YouTube land, you already see it because I have the presentation pulled up. Number one, and it goes in no particular order. One of the main reasons why we are not forging healthy relationships, right, with ourselves and others is because we lack knowledge of self. And I know many of us have heard this term before. Right now, a lot of these terms, these phrases, our symbols, quotes, all of these things, meanings, words, a lot of it have seemingly lost their essence, their power, because they're thrown around so loosely. And there are so many misconceptions that are centered around pure energetic words like having knowledge of self without even truly understanding what that means. Having knowledge of self. Having knowledge of self doesn't mean you knowing what's your favorite color. Having knowledge of selves, having knowledge of self does not necessarily mean you knowing what's your favorite food. Having knowledge of self does not necessarily mean what your favorite style of clothing is, what your favorite fashion is, what your favorite place is. Hi, Quad. How are you, my love? Peace, right? Having knowledge of self run way deeper than just external knowings. And this is the part where we're not getting. This is what we're not getting, because we're saying that, oh, I have knowledge of self. I know myself because I know my favorite color. I know what I like and I dislike, right? I know the type of man or woman I am, the type of man or woman I want, right? I know what words trigger me or what words bring me satisfaction, right? I know what environments that bring me the most joy, right? And this is what many of us think knowledge of self is, right? Surface level. These are external things. These are external things. And if you pay close attention, you will realize that just because you are familiar with your external understandings, right? Because there's a difference between understanding and understanding, does not mean you have an understanding of what knowledge of self is, right? Knowledge of self in its essence is the absent, is the not having knowledge of self. It is the absence of knowing one's divine truest essence, right? Understanding that you are triune. You are part mental, part spiritual, soul, and part physical. Most of us only understand who we are based on physicalities, based on external things, right? But let me ask you a serious question. Is your life changing for the better? Are you actually attracting what and who you desire? Are you are you 80% or even 90% satisfied, blissful, joyful, at peace with where you are today? Talking about knowledge of self, I know myself, right? Understanding something or someone is external. Understanding someone or something is internal. Okay? It's the internal things that I want you to pay attention to, because it is the internal things that dictate the external things. So when I say having knowledge of self, I mean having knowledge of self, understanding that you are more than just your physical makeup. You are more than just your body. You are more than just what you reflect in the mirror. You are more than your hips and your thighs. You are more than your favorite color. You are more than that. Knowledge of self means that you understand now because you took the time to self reflect. You took the time to reprogram what you were programmed to think, to be, to focus on, right? You cannot understand something unless you reverse engineer what you currently understand. I hope y'all caught that. Mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically, financially, and definitely energetically, right? It is the absence of knowing one's divine triune essence, right? Part mental, part spirit, soul, part physical. And your behavioral traits is not enough to identify your behaviors. Understanding, having an understanding of knowledge of self, right? If you actually invested in getting, finding an expert that can help you get there, right? Will help you navigate your internal waters, your internal information to let you know that what you know isn't working. You cannot expect to create new behavior patterns without new information. And the more you feed a thing, the more that thing grows. Indirectly or directly, a lot of us are being fed and consuming misguided information, inaccurate information, unhealthy information, and you think it's serving the purpose, serving purposes because you are receiving momentary pleasures and fix and satisfaction with your behavior patterns, but you do not know what's happening internally. This is why many of us are self-destruction. You don't know, you don't have a full understanding as much as you need to of what's happening to your mental, of what's happening in your to your spirit, of what's happening to your physical. You do not understand these things because if you did, you will become more intentional about your behavior patterns. So, one of the primary reasons as to why we're not forging healthy relationships, starting with the relationship that you have with yourself, is that you do not truly understand self. You do not really understand soul. You do not really understand the core essence of who you are because you've been so conditioned to think that you are this avatar, that you are the body, that you are the vehicle, to the point where you're not even driving anymore. You're not in the driver's seat anymore. You're not in control anymore. I say it all the time. You're going to do two things when you enter this realm, when you come to a mature mental age and capable of making decisions. You are either going to be mastered or learn to master self. And far too many of us are being mastered and we don't really realize it. However, it's affecting us still in so many different ways. Peace, Jade, my love. How are you, beautiful? Right? These things include, when it comes to our behavioral traits, it includes our emotional state. And I know we hear a lot emotional intelligence, EQ, EQ. Let me tell you something. Half of the information that's going around about people and these self-proclaimed gurus, with all due respect and no respect at the same time, do not know what they're talking about. There's a lot of individuals attempting to teach you about what EQ is, what emotional intelligence is, and they don't have a clue. Again, what you consume, you become. Everything that you consume, no matter on a macro scale or a micro scale, it starts to take roots. It starts to take roots. It starts to bloom. If it's healthy, if it's something that you're consuming that is healthy, that's beautiful. But it is something that is going to cause unhealthy effects, whether you know it or not, it's going to affect the relationship that you have with self and the relationship that you have with others. It's not enough to know about your personal traits. It's not enough to know about your mental state, surface level things, right? Your behavior patterns, behaviorism, right? The conditions in which we learn. Yeah, it's easy for you to say, "Oh, I know my love languages." Do you understand the core reasons as to why? Emotional intelligence extends way beyond just you being able to articulate the feeling that come with it. Many of us can articulate if we feel angry, if we feel mad, if we feel upset, if we feel contentious. Many of us can articulate if we feel love, if we feel appreciated, if we feel accepted. Many of us can articulate the feelings behind emotions, but do you truly understand what emotions is? Do you really understand that emotions are energy in motion, and not only that, that they are chemicals? Do you understand that many of us are behaving so in such unhealthy ways is because you have a chemical imbalance? Do you know that every disease, every dis-ease, every discomfort that is known on this planet, that human beings, infinite beings are experiencing, is because we have a chemical imbalance, is because we're not chemically aligned? Do you understand every time you have a episode, right, a depressive episode? Do you understand every time you have an anxiety attack? Do you understand every time you feel anger? Do you realize every time that you feel bitter, that you feel lonely, that you feel broken, that you feel defeated, is because of an chemical imbalance? So it's not enough just to recognize and articulate what you're feeling. That's not understanding self, which is why I said the one of the most important things, the things that we're missing, and our inability in forging healthy relationships is a lack of knowledge. And I'm not saying you have to be a professor in all of these things, but your unwillingness, right? Your every decision not to invest in yourself, not to understand a little bit about a lot of things that have everything to do with you, not wanting to know a little about neuroscience, not wanting to know a little bit about metaphysics, not wanting to know anything about light waves, sound waves, about chemical, not wanting to understand, to learn a little bit about behavioral traits, behavioral analytics, right? Language, cymatics, body language, not wanting to understand on a deeper level what emotional intelligence is, right? Research is hurting you, right? Understand, overstand. Yes, Daniel. Could it be situational at times? Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely, sis. Kiara, how are you, my love? And this is why I'm here to help those who are ready. Because, thank you so much, beautiful. Right? I want y'all to understand something. Every last one of you, which I'm showing 9 of you, Ashe, by the way, Ashe. Ashe. Mwah. Official King. Thank you. Look, the family is showing up. Oh, mwah. I appreciate you all. I appreciate you all. My goodness. Mwah. And it's, oh, thank you so much. Infinite gratitude for the love. Infinite gratitude for the love. Yeah, listen, I done lost my train of thought. Okay, I got it back. I got it back. Thank you for the beautiful interruption. Thank you for the beautiful interruption, bro. Thank you so much, my sis Lotus Jade. Thank you so much. I really, truly, and divinely, I appreciate all of you. Come on, let me get back to it. Understand that nothing happens. Thank you so much, my love. Understand that you are here for divine reason, right? Understand that nothing happens by happenstance, coincidence, or luck. The only way I attract people into my aura, into my space, right, into my universe, is if they vibrate where I vibrate. The only time anyone, a spirit or a soul, receives divine information, right, instruction, knowledge, understanding, overstanding, and outerstanding, is by you being aligned. I want you to understand that. You're not here just because you scrolled or just because of whatever you think. You're here for a divine purpose, and I hope you pick it up. This is why I'm here to help assist you and guide you into learning how to master self. When I mean self, I mean your complete triune self, not just your physical self. Understanding your divine purpose, understanding, understanding how and why you have the relationship that you have with yourself. Pardon me, right? It's so much more than knowing what you want. You have to know why you want what you want, especially when it comes down to you wanting to forge a healthy relationship. Because there's some of us that want to be served instead of serving. There's some of us who lack the understanding that when you get into a relationship with someone, it's about serving, because when you serve them, you serve you. And you can't serve anybody until you become familiar with serving yourself on a higher purpose, understanding those things. Until you understand what are your preferred languages, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically, even financially, definitely energetically. Understanding duality. There is no one without the other. There is no one without the other. Understanding that universal laws and principles, for every cause, there's an effect. For every cause, there is an effect. And we've been causing so many unhealthy relationship dynamics that we are now overwhelmed with the effects of them. And yet we're still having the same type of conversations centered around cheating and forgiveness and all of these different things when your perspective ain't reaching high as it should, right? On to the next. And these tips, these 4 tips I'm giving, are in no particular order. The second most vital reason why we are not forging healthy relationships, the first being the relationship with yourself, is because of trust. Ashe, is because of trust. Hi, Marvin. How are you, my love? Peace. Trust. Trust is a firm, strong, solid knowing. It's okay to believe. However, understand that belief is the absence of knowing. And when you are planning, when you are in the process of understanding, it is important that you know the difference. There are going to be certain things that you believe, and there are certain things that you know, right? The more you grow, you should move from believing to knowing, because your elevation exists in the knowing. You cannot just rely on you believing in something or someone. You have to know it. Remember, everything is energy, everything is frequency. It's one of the IE tips in how to attract the people, places, and things that you desire. All of this information is in my ebook, Attracting What and Who You Desire. If you're interested, real quick, click the link in my bio. It has helped hundreds of people. Okay. You have to move from a place of believing to knowing. I'll give an example. I don't believe I have 3 sons. I don't believe I ported 3 souls into this realm. I don't believe that I am still helping to guide 3 souls. I know. I don't believe I'm a divine, infinite, feminine goddess, woman, female energy. I know it. You cannot tap into the power within until you get to know, right? Even if you don't fully understand that yet, still speak it, because remember, what you feed will grow and what you starve will lose its power. So, one of the tips in elevating and understanding and learning how to master self is moving from a state of belief to knowing, right? And this is one of the trips, the tips and tactics that the wicked ones, the evil ones, the one who, right, set up all of these systems, especially this language, to keep you trapped. Because as long as you keep believing something, you ain't going to tap into the power of knowing. As long as you keep believing you're beautiful, you ain't going to know you beautiful. As long as you keep believing you're intelligent, you're not going to know you're intelligent. Peace, Sylvia. How are you, love? As long as you keep believing that there's great women and great men and amazing women and amazing men out there, guess what? You ain't going to know it. It is in the knowing that you make it through the Gemini twins, the gates of righteous judgment. It is in the knowing that you surpasses. It is in the knowing that you operate within your supreme essence and power. It is in the knowing. However, if you never invest in your self development, if you never understand what mental reprogramming is, what mental reconditioning is, you're always going to be stuck in a state of belief, still doubt somewhere. When it comes to you, right, forging healthy relationships with others, starting with the relationship with yourself, no matter if it's a platonic relationship, a family relationship, right? A business relationship, understand that your self relationship, the relationship you have with self will dictate the relationship you have with others. And far too many of y'all don't trust other people for a vast amount of reasons. But the primary one is you don't trust yourself. You don't know how to trust yourself because you've been disappointed, right? And abused and used in so many ways that has consumed your mental database. It's consumed your frequency, right? Is verbiated and what is, you know what? I think I said that word incorrect. Verbiating, right? Very, very prevalent in your life, and it shows, right? It's not that you don't trust him or her. It's not that you don't trust him or her. Understanding teaches you. I don't trust him or her because they liars. I don't trust him or her because there's just backstabbing people in the world. Again, understanding something. I don't trust him or her because of all of my past experiences. I don't trust the government because of dot, dot, dot. I don't trust society because of dot, dot, dot. I don't trust nature because of dot, dot, dot. I don't trust me because of dot, 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 dot. What you're energetically implying is that you do not trust yourself. Because if you understood, right, that everything starts, continues, and completes, if that's the purpose, all things come to a completion. It starts, continues, and completes with you. You don't have to trust him or her. I'm speaking on an internal knowledge base. I'm speaking internal factors. You don't have to trust him or her, them, they, that, it. You just have to trust you, right? You have to trust your abilities. You have to trust your intuition. All of these things come by practice, yes? Tia, thank you so much for the follow, my love. Because if you trust you, you will absolutely trust them to do exactly what they do. And when you understand the different levels of mastery, right? You stop taking things so personal. You stop allowing the things that people do to cipher out your energy, your frequency, your power. You stop allowing people to lower your frequency. Trust yourself. Get into the practice of trusting yourself. It is one of the vital things that you need to understand when forging healthy relationships, begin it with yourself. There are so many reasons why we lack trust with others. We lack trust or lost trust in others, people, places, and things, right? The lack of loss of trust, it is one of the most dangerous impediments in a relationships. Let me say that again. Starting with the relationship you have with yourself. When you don't trust yourself or trust others, right? You are putting yourself in a danger zone to continually feed unhealthy dynamics and relationships. Because without trust, no matter the quote unquote types of relationships, right? Romantic, platonic, friendly, family, friend, right? If you lack security and safety first within yourself, it don't matter what people do. You are going to lack trust. Trust does not begin with the other person. Trust or the lack thereof begins with you, right? Why is that? Trust issues can be manifested in numerous of ways as many of you are familiar with. It can be manifested in many ways. Jealousy, right? Possessiveness, unreasonable, being unreasonable, emotional, physical infidelity, right? The games we play. I did a master class on the dangerous games we play in dating. That was powerful. You can look that up. It's in my YouTube, right? The more you know, the more you can absolutely grow. There is a prerequisite to attracting what and who you desire, beginning with you first. And that's called brain and heart coherence. Do y'all understand what I'm saying? I know this is making sense and this is touching some of you. Let's start. Let's get some of those taps up, my loves. I appreciate you. So let's understand a little bit deeper before we get into the third thing, right? The number 3. The third thing that enables us that influences us, right? That influences our unhealthy attachments. The mechanics behind communication. Say it with me. Communication. We're talking about understanding. We're talking about gaining deeper awareness. We're talking about raising your awareness, right? What's behind the mechanics of how you communicate? Because how you communicate and why you communicate the way you communicate is also dictating the relationships that you forge. Quiet Storm, how are you, my love? Curveball, how are you? Communication. Let's get into the mechanics of communication real quick. These are some things that are influencing your communication. Your emotions. Remember, I mentioned earlier, your emotions are chemical signals, right? They are not just feelings, they are chemical signals, chemical messengers, right? Your emotions dictate the relationship you have with self and others. Your perspectives. This is big for many of you who know me, are familiar with me. I talk about perspective all the time. I talk about perspective all the time, and honestly speaking, transparently speaking, because I'm not here to only give you desirable truths, messages, right? Inspos. I'm also here to give you the undesirable facts of things. Far too many of us have a very skewed perception and perspective. Perceptions and perspectives. Our perspectives are so skewed to the point where some of us think that if someone cheats in a relationship, Both of them are the reason. I'm going to say that again. We're talking about perspectives and perception. Let me give that example again. Our perspectives and perceptions are so skewed, we think if someone cheats mentally, spiritually, emotionally, right? Physically in a relationship, some of us have a perspective that the one that was cheated on is the blame. The one that was cheated on forced the cheater to cheat. That is a skewed perspective. No one forces you. No one can literally, no one can internally, no one can anything you can think about. No one can literally force you to do something, right? We're still talking about understanding self. No one can violate your free will. The only time someone can do what they do to you is by you allowing. You have to give acceptance. The wicked ones know this. You have to choose. You have to say yes or you have to say no. But understand, you don't only verbally agree to something or someone. You can non verbally agree, you can energetically agree. Just because you say no doesn't mean you say no. Doesn't mean you, just because you say yes does not necessarily mean you say yes. When a person cheats, yes, are there links as to certain things that influence them to cheat, right? Absolutely, yes. But to say your partner forced you to cheat is to say that you are weak-willed and weak-minded. That's what it energetically implies. Your perspective plays a huge and vital role in the relationships you forge, the relationships that you have with self, and the relationships that you forge. My encouragement is for many of you to please start paying attention to the pools that you're swimming in. Because if you think you're going to keep swimming in certain pools and not get wet, you are mistaken. You are mistaken, right? And then we're condoning at many times these foolish behaviors, people with very low-minded, very low vibrational, negative perspectives. When you have a limited amount of perspectives, you have a limited amount of possibilities. When you have a variety of perspectives, you have limitless possibilities. Meaning, if your perspectives are very short, are very narrowed, are very skewed, you can go no higher than that feeling, right? It's the difference in looking from eye level to having an advantage point. When you don't take the time to learn, you know what this thing is you know what, TikTok, y'all need to do better with that. Y'all can clearly see I'm doing something. I'm active. Okay? When you do not invest in yourself, your knowledge, your education, right? When you don't do that, you when you don't expand your perspective, right? It keeps you in a limited mindset, right? This is why our perspectives are so skewed because we're not thinking deep enough, right? Most of us are thinking according to all of our hurts, our pains, and our traumas. Now when I say this, I want you to tell me. I'm gonna think of a good one while I'm doing this. Let me know how you feel about what I'm about to say. Let me know what you feel about what I'm about to say. If I was someone who said this to you, let's say that you and I are in a relationship, right? Let's say you and I are in a romantic relationship, right? And we were going through rough patches and turmoil, right? Let's just say that we were not sexually engaging with one another as much as we used to. Let's say that there's some friction in our relationship, right? Let's say that I was the one who stepped out of our relationship. Let's say that I was the one, hypothetically, right? That I was the one who cheated. Let's say that I was the one, right, who landed on top of somebody's penis and just like, oops, just like, I just fell out the sky and landed on the penis and just, theme park style, just, going and going. And then when you find out, I say, well, you're the reason why I cheated. How does that sound to you? How does that make you feel? How is make that perspective make sense? I'm the one who fell from the sky, right? And landed on somebody's penis. I'm the one who chose to stay there, but I'm blaming you. Things that you were doing, I'm blaming you because you wasn't giving it up. I'm blaming you because you hurt my feelings. Perspective. I'm blaming you because I should not be accountable. I should not be responsible. I don't want to be accountable and I don't want to be. Do you hear how limited that sound? How foolish that sounds? Perspective. Limited perspectives are one-sided and one-sided only. And if you're not careful, you are going to continually self-destruct. You are going to continually forge unhealthy relationships if your lack of self-control and discipline, ashe, right? Your perspectives also dictate the type of relationship that you have with self and others. Your perception. I always do this little exercise, and I'm gonna do it for you all. Remember that there's no right or wrong answers, but I want you to respond based on what you see. Tell me, what do you see? Some of you already familiar with this exercise. Don't spoil it. Just tell me what you see. I'm gonna show you in different cameras. Tell me what you see with this. Let me know. Put it in the chat. As for my Facebook and YouTube, tell me what you see when you see this. Let me know. Let me know in the comments. What do you see when you see this? What do you see when you see this? A backward six. Okay, I see it. A backward six. Right? What do you see when you see that? I often do this exercise. We're talking about perception. Perception. Selena, thank you so much for that. You see a nine. Okay, so we got one person sees a six, one person sees a nine. Okay. Another person sees a six. Okay. I'm giving this example because if you have a limited perspective, you will only see what you perceive this to be. I think of a nine within a circle that leads within thyself. Okay, that's the perspective, right? When you have a limited perspective, you only perceive this to be exactly what you said, right? It's a limited perspective. Now, we're not talking about right or wrong. None of them are right or wrong. However, when you have limitless perspectives, you see multiple things. You see a six, you see a nine, you see an E, right? You see a upside down, whatever it is, right? Some of y'all see an angle, right? Right? And some of y'all can actually see and say it's a symbol. They're just angles. That's called expanding your perspectives. And one of the only ways you can forge healthy relationships, and the relationship the relationship with yourself, is by broadening your perception of everything. When it comes to situations, when it comes to your understanding, when it comes to your behaviors, when it comes to the way people behave around you, how y'all behave with each other, when you broaden your perspectives, right? When you stop having a tunnel vision perspective and you have a more advantage point, eagle eye perspective, you can see that one thing can be a multitude of things. Peace, sweetie. How are you, my love? One thing can be a multiple of things. There's always going to be various amounts of reasons as to why you do what you do and others do what they do. Wisdom tells you to pause and figure it out. Stop being reactive and start being responsive, right? This is where compassion comes in. Another influencer of the relationships that we're forging, especially the unhealthy ones, is because of our experiences, right? Mainly our traumatic experiences, all the unresolved ones, right? Because you've been abused, misused, right? Because you went through and been through so many horrific experiences, one of the things that is directly connected to the inner reasons why we are forging unhealthy relationships is because we've experienced so many traumatic moments in our life, knowingly or unknowingly, that aren't resolved. Your perception and your perspective, right? And dealing with someone else is all based upon your past. So when you hear people say things like, in an ugly world, when you hear people say things like love over loyalty, when you hear people say that trust no one, when you hear things like that, when you hear people say all men are dogs or all women are dogs, or there's only a few amount of good wholesome men and women, when you hear people say things like men are incapable of love, first of all, what is your perception and perspective of love? Because it's different for many of us. Your perception and your perspectives are influenced and are shaped by your past experiences. And because many of us haven't tapped into our divine power, sacred knowledge, you are unable to think beyond certain dimensions. So, what are you left with? You're left with all of the prejudgments that you already had. And this is why you are still in denial about certain things. This is why you say things haphazardly and don't even understand what you're actually doing to yourself. This is why you're in your relationships are in turmoil and just are tumultuous and destructive. This is why you're not seeing and experiencing the results that you want, right? We're still talking about the why many of our relationships are unhealthy. Peace. How are you, my love? Peace, queen. Like when Morpheus told Neo to free wait, hold on. When Morpheus told Neo to free his mind and jump off the sand, yeah, and he started flying. If you're only thinking from with a limited within a limited dimensional paradigm, guess what your reality is going to be? You're going to continually say things that you really don't want. It really bugs my nerve. It really scratches my nerve to see people say, say certain things, especially about this world. Like in a society full of negativity, in a world full of hate, in a world full of dysfunction, what are you really saying, my love? Right? What are you really feeding? A lot of us are living this false, fictitious life. We're putting on this false appearance. We're not living and breathing and thriving in our authentic self. And let me tell you something, you are self destructing, whether you know it or not. The things that many of us are doing is hurting us more than it's helping us. And you cannot sense it because you're too busy trying to see it. You're too busy seeing it. When you see things, it's physical because what you see isn't seeing. That's a misconception. You don't actually see with these. Pardon me. These reflect. They are reflectors. They are projectors. You don't see with these. You sense. When you are sensing, it's internal. It's spiritual. Do y'all understand what I'm saying? If you want to start forging healthy relationships, romantic relationships, platonic relationships, you have to understand more than you do right now. Yes, Selena, right? These influencers, right? We're talking about the mechanics behind communication, how you communicate. Too many of us have very unhealthy communication practices, right? Because we don't know the mechanics behind it, which one of them things is your mental database. What's in your mental database? One of the easiest ways to identify, we're talking about identifying things. One of the easiest way to identify what's in your database is to pay attention to your behaviors. Your mental database determines how you behave, including how you speak. How you speak, right? The tone and mannerisms of how you speak. There's always going to be a cause and effect. How are you communicating? Is your communication styles causing you loneliness, right? Sadness, causing you to be depressed, confused, complacent, sensitized to poor behaviors, right? Scared, fearful, or cowardice? How many of you actually assess how you communicate? How many of you are actually aware of how you communicate, not only with yourself, with others as well? Are you communicating based on sadness, loneliness, depression? Are you communicating based on confusion, complacement, sensitization? Are you communicating based upon your spitefulness? Are you a spiteful communicator? You got to get them back. You got somebody piss you off or say something that didn't rub you the right way. Now you done took. How are you communicating? Is your communication style spiteful, deceitful, and dishonest? Is your communication style scary, fearful, cowardice? right? A very tactical master communicator can always unjustly manipulate their body language. Just because someone smiles don't mean they have good intentions for you. Is your communication style immature? Are you a whiner? Are you a complainer? Woe is me. Woe is me. Everything happened to me. Yes, there is power in your words, right? Well, is that are you paying attention to your communication style, right? Is your communication style full of joy, full of happiness, full of bliss, right? Instead of being confused in your communication style, the way you communicate, do you have comprehension skills? Because communication without comprehension is just blabber. It's just words, 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 words. Communication, an exchange of communication without comprehension, right, can completely change the directory and the trajectory of a conversation. I'm any my goodness. For those of you who seen the Sukiyana interview with that young lady, right? And the young lady said, she because she, I guess the interviewer, she interviews musicians. So they're having a conversation. They're communicating. One lacks comprehension and the other is comprehensive, right? So the interviewer says to Sukiyana, yeah, because you're, as a musician, and many of us laughed at her, including me, because I'm like, you can't be serious. Like, is it a joke? Whether it's a joke or not, right? Whether she was actually serious or not, I do know people who lack comprehension and who's very openly, right, confidently foolish. And she's like, what the you mean? I'm not a magician, right? I don't do magic. I'm an entertainer. I do music. I'm an artist. And she's like, I think you're getting it confused with what I said. Like, I didn't say, she said, I think you're getting musician and magician confused. She's like, what are you talking about? Right? I'm not a magician. Like, what is that? Do magic or so low? When I said, you know what? Is this a skit? Like, did they plan this? But then I had to pull back and be like, you know what? Whether it's a skit or not, we're talking about different perspectives right here. I'm giving you an end time example of different perspectives when you're assessing a situation before you react instead of respond. And so in my mind, I'm doing the 360 assessment, which I teach. It's like analyze 360 around you. I'm like, is it a joke or isn't it? Is it a skit or isn't it? However, even if it wasn't, I still know of people who lack comprehension. I still know of people who lack comprehension as well as they're blissfully ignorant. Right? Insane, isn't it? Pete, hi Supreme. How are you, my love? You changed your name. How are you, hon? So low vibrational queen. That is so true. If people don't comprehend what you are saying, the whole convo will be thrown off. It will. One word can change the whole message. It can change the whole paragraph, right? This is why let me tell you something. If I'm unfamiliar with the definition of a word, right? Because I'm gonna look it up. I have to look it up. That's just me. I have to comprehend what it's saying. I need to look up that word. I need to look up the synonyms and the antonyms. I need to look up a word if I'm unfamiliar with it or if I have forgotten. Pardon me, because that happens sometimes too. Sometimes we forget the definition of words. And it's like, I'm a writer. So it's important for me to make sense. It's important for me to comprehend my own right and let it, as well as other people comprehending. So when it comes to understanding, not outer, not understanding, understanding how you communicate, how you've been communicating, whether it's healthy or unhealthy, productive or not productive, right? Comprehension plays a huge part in that. And this is why I don't argue with many people. I stopped doing that a long time ago. I stopped talking to walls a long time ago. I stopped talking to dense minds a long time ago. I'm not about to go back and forth with you because you repeatedly showing me that you're willfully choosing to be ignorant. You're willfully choosing to thrive in your stupidity. You're willfully choosing to react and not respond. You're willingly choosing not to understand and just understand. You're willingly choosing all of these things. And I'm not about to go back and forth with you. We're not doing that. We talking about me, he, me, her, us, and you, them, us. Like I'm not going back and forth with no unintelligent, unaware. I'm not doing that. My response is always, you know what? You're absolutely right. No matter what they say, you're absolutely right. Because what makes sense to you, the senselessness that makes sense to you will never make sense to me. And so I'm not going back and forth with you, honey. Whatever you say, it's okay, right? I educate and conversate with people who lack the information that I have and the resources that I have. I'll engage with them. It doesn't even, you can disagree with me, right? But just because you have different perspectives and you disagree doesn't mean you have to be foolish and unwise. But I'm not arguing. I have never seen a giraffe argue with an ant that is taller. I have never. I have never. And I ain't going to start. You can stay right there. You stay right over there. We're not doing that. The imparting or exchanging of information with self and others. Now we get into communicating issues. Numerous studies have identified that communication or the lack thereof as one of the top reasons why couples seek therapy and why couples separate. A lack of a lack of communication, right? On a deeper level, I'm adding comprehensive communication. There's a lack, right? The single best predictor in divorces, separations, breakups, misunderstandings, right? Is when both or one of the parties start showing contempt in in the relationship or partnership. When I mean contempt, I mean to say the opposite of respect. Whenever you do not have respect for someone, in most cases, we're talking about in relationships, is because you have or hold contempt for them somewhere in your aura, in your mind, in your essence, because you've lost respect for them. When a person continually shows them that they lack integrity, contempt starts to form. Let's tap, 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 my loves. Drop the ball. Yes. Let's continue to tap. The only thing I ask, and it is for free, is that you show your love and appreciation by tapping, right? Energy is received by the energy that is given. It doesn't require a lot for you to tap, to just show your support. Much appreciation, right? Contempt being the opposite of respect. It is often expressed via negative judgments, criticisms, a display of sarcasm when it comes to the worth of the individual in your eyes according to your perspectives and emotions, right? Do you understand how you communicate? What's your communication style? We're still talking about the why many of our relationships are unhealthy, right? Do you understand the different styles of communication, right? Yes, you can tap and listen at the same time. Yes, you can. You know how to multitask. You have passive communicators, right? Which are people who are unaware or ignores others' thoughts, feelings, emotions, and desires, or people who ignores their own thoughts, feelings, emotions, and desires, right? This is also known as the people pleaser. People who are so consumed and people who are so consumed and so adamant about pleasing other people at their own detriment, lack confidence, self esteem. On a deeper level, it means their energy center here, their throat chakra, is either overactive or underactive or blocked, right? And then we have our aggressive communicators. We all seen them. We all been them, right? These are the people. This is one that overrides other people's opinion, dominating conversations. They always got to be right. They talking over you. You can't get a word in edgewise, right? It's shown in all of their activities. They don't listen, right? They hear what they want to hear. Do you know most arguments or most disagreements are formed by people hearing what wasn't said, was never said? People hear what they want to hear because they're too busy forming a clapback, right? More than they are actually listening, right? Peace, Nesta. How are you, love? These are your aggressive communicators. And then you have your passive communicators, right? Many of you can find yourself in these communicating with these different styles and in these manners. Your passive aggressive communicators have the inability to effectively voice their thoughts, their feelings, right? So they become flustered quick. They become easily frustrated, right? Everything is personal. Everything that they say is like, you talking about me? Well, on one side, it's like, well, if the shoe fit, wear it. On the other side, it's like, did I say you? You know, some people are actually really honest and transparent. Some people will respectfully, in a very sincere tone, will tell you the truth. They will. And this whole notion and misconception that, whether everybody lies or everybody, let me tell you something. There are people out there who do not lie. There are people out there who do not lie. It's possible, right? If you lie, you lie. There is no such thing as a colorful lie. Please, for the love of all things pure, stop saying that foolish ish. There is no such thing as a colorful lie. Lies are not black, lies are not white, lies are not purple, lies are not blue, lies are not pink, lies are not yellow. A lie is a lie. I lie. I lie at times. I'm working on not lying, but there are times that I still lie. There are times that I still omit the truth. There are times, right? However, understanding the core reasons as to why you lie will help you not to lie anymore, to stop lying. I don't lie as much as I used to. I don't lie as much as I used to, right? I'm afraid to lie. I'm I, I'm not a and sometimes it's not so much as like fear, Marvin. Sometimes it's just an auto response, just like auto correct, because we're so used to, right? Omitting certain truths because of so many reasons, valid and invalid alike. Valid and invalid alike. The how I and what I express to a 2 or 3 year young being person is is going to be different how I express myself or communicate with a 30-year young person. Do you understand what I'm saying? There are certain things that is truthful, but you learn how to alchemize the truth. But omitting the truth is omitting the truth, right? The best thing that you can do with yourself is be transparently honest with yourself. The best thing you can do. You should not practice lying, right? But you should definitely be aware as to why you're lying. Do you lie because you're a people pleaser? What are the things that you're lying about, right? Are you lying to yourself in regard to certain things, right? Are you aggressive? Jumping back to communication styles, right? So what a healthy, let's go over, it's been about almost an hour. A couple of healthy, effective forms of communications, of how to effectively communicate, right? You need comprehension, you need confidence, and you absolutely need to be paying attention. Not just listening, right? Not just hearing what you want to hear, but actively listening, not just to what they're saying, but their body language, their nonverbal cues. Effective listening is considered to be a skill, right? Because people speak and communicate in other ways besides verbally, auditorily, right? One of the skills and one of the skills and being an effective comprehensive communicator is paying attention to not only what they're saying verbally but what they're also saying with their body language, right? Having empathy, having respect, right? Understanding the nonverbal messages and cues, which requires you to be to operate within your discerning spirit, for you to trust your gut, trust your soul, trust your spirit, trust your intuition, right? Is to be informative. It can get pretty frustrating attempting to have a conversation with someone that lack information, but quick to give their perspective. Quick to give your perspective, but you lack the information. You lack the discernment to formulate a wise intellectual decision or response. Effective, healthy communication also requires your awareness, intelligence, and discipline mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically, financially, right? And it is time because I keep these master classes really short. There are a couple of slides, but um, like I say, pardon me, um, there's a lot, and I have to actually, discipline myself and not give in. So like I be wanting to give everything to you all. I really do. I really do. Because I truly understand, I truly have compassion when I see certain people um in pain, in anguish, depressed, ready to give up. I what do they call I am what do they call I think they call it clairsentient. I'm an energy reader, right? I transmute energy. I inner, over, outer, and understand as well energy. I read energy, right? It is one of my most relatable superpowers, right? We all have specific superpowers. I can sense, because when you're sensing, it's connected to vibration, to energy, to frequency, sensing, seeing, reflecting, physical, sensing, internal. So I sense a lot of hurt and pain that's covered and doused with smiles, with laughter, with comedy, right? Small steps make a dynamic difference. Ashe, they really do, right? Give me one moment, TikTok. Okay. This was all things self mastery. And this evening we were talking about the why, the inner reason why we are in unhealthy relationships, while we are forging unhealthy relationships. And I hope you enjoyed some of the tips, some of the tools, some of the tricks, and the information in which you can change that narrative, right? You can find me here at All Things Self Mastery, right? Friday evenings, I'll come before you, pardon me, and I give a live masterclass. So I'll see you next Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for another self mastery lesson. Give me 1 second, TikTok. I'm gonna answer any of your questions you have. Hi, Gather Your Roses, right? Make sure you are subscribed. It is free to subscribe, right? I appreciate your support in doing so. Make sure you hit the notification bell, right? So you are aware when I go live. And if you want to be a part of the Masters of Self text thread, to be notified via your phone when I am going live to teach a master lesson, text MOS, which stands for Masters of Self, MOX to 1833 996 3032. I am your host, your self mastery mentor, Venus the Goddess. I will see you all very, very soon. Mwah.